It takes a tremendous amount of courage to come out under ideal conditions. You never know if people you love will embrace you or reject you, if people you don't know will hate you just because of who you are or what you might lose unexpectedly, like your home, your job, your health due to violence. To come out publicly during a church congregation, one you're leading, one that's being live streamed for the whole world to see, that takes a lot of faith. Hello, folks, and welcome to Factual, a bonus show that pops up from time to time when I have both the availability and just regular ability to do one, where we talk about the realities of trans and intersex people, like me. If you're new here, my name is Ember, and I'm an intersex transgender woman of diverse education, a secular minister, a pro-science public speaker, and a debunker of pseudoscience-flavored conspiracy theories, among other things. This is where you hit the subscribe button like it owes you money, and give the like button a gentle tap, just to prove you aren't a monster. Today we're meeting Reverend Philippa Phaneuf, the most recent minister to come to the attention of the Bigot Brigade, following her November 23rd service where she came out to her congregation as trans. On a live stream this year. This girl's got guts. So I want to take a look at what she actually said to the church folk and share my thoughts as both a human rights advocate and a minister of how others might handle this very delicate situation with grace. Let's do this.
Everyone gets nervous when there's a special announcement from the pastor. I'm not leaving.
Why does everyone think that? Like, is that the only announcement pastors usually make is, peace, I'm out? I don't know. I haven't been to enough churches recently.
Hold on to that. I'm going to hold you to it. So rarely do I did not get into ministry to talk about myself or my personal life, but sometimes there are things that happen in a pastor's personal life that is going to find its way out into ministry. And so
I love the caption. Now, they're doing this live. This is a recording. It's a clip from the live stream. While they were actually streaming, someone was in charge of these captions. Maybe the pastor pre-programmed them. I don't know. But I love that they're teasing what's about to come by saying a season of creative transformation. That's kind of neat.
I am inviting you to join me in a season of creative transformation for myself, and I think for all of us. Imagine if your doctor came and told you that your quality and outlook on life could transform exponentially to the positive. Would you listen to that doctor?
This makes me think of the scene out of that recent Wonder Woman movie, 1984, I think. Was it? Never mind. Different thoughts. But that sales dude who's like, life is good, but it could be better. It's kind of like that. It's like a doctor saying, hey, so, maybe things are good in your life, but maybe things could be better. But here's a way that someone like you could be even better. Like, oh, you suffer from constant migraines like your entire life? Here's a pill that will help with that. It really is kind of like that. You've been suffering your entire life. Here's a pill that can help with that.
Okay. If you felt God's Holy Spirit surrounding you in ways that you haven't felt in years, would you have a sense that might be something that God's okay with. Yeah. So I get to announce with joy that I'm transitioning. I'm affirming and saying to all of you that I am transgender. And so, the best way.
That's possibly the best way to put it. Keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. I understand that, people are going to feel a bit of anxiety, even if they're experienced public speakers, like a minister who gives a sermon every Sunday. Talking about something different can still cause a kind of anxiety. And sometimes it's best to not beat around the bush and risk confusing people. Just say what you got to say. Just say the thing. Simple, straightforward, to the point.
Way to put this is that I'm not becoming a woman. I'm giving up pretending to be a man.
Okay, that makes sense. I would have emphasized the distinction a little bit more strongly, but of course, it's an intensely personal moment being done very publicly. So I could definitely understand why the presentation might not have come out the same way she planned it to in the first place. But that's a pretty fair way to help people understand, because for a trans person, it very much is like you are one person on the inside, and because of social influences outside of you telling you who you should be, you've been pretending to be someone else your entire life. You've been wearing this mask that was forced on you by society. You should do this. You shouldn't do that. You must dress this way. You have to behave in this fashion. All of this sort of stuff. And it's just not you. You've been going along to get along as long as you can, but you reach a certain point where you can't. You have to stop pretending. It's a different place for everybody. Thankfully, fewer people than ever have to push it to the point where they have to find out how far they can go until they can't. Because people shouldn't have to do that. People shouldn't have to wait until they're literally at the end of their rope to be able to live their damn lives, to be able to have some happiness and joy within themselves. Maybe I'm silly. Maybe I'm overly optimistic. But from what we've been seeing about the people who are able to access transition care earlier in life, they generally have normal lives instead of having to come out to your congregation at 51. I mean, it's wonderful she's doing this. It's brave as hell. But she shouldn't have ever had to, if you see what I mean.
This is a process, and this is going to be shocking for some of us as to what this all means. But this is where we invite God's Holy Spirit to grant us grace and peace, because really what it comes down to is awareness. So let's just be aware and recognize the fact that there can often be, in these kinds of situations, the fear of the unknown.
That's a fair way to address it. A lot of people are going to be confused, especially considering there's so much static out in the zeitgeist at the moment. So saying, hey, fear of the unknown is a normal thing. Don't be afraid of it. Just be aware. Downside of this clip being on Facebook is when messages come through, they're going to pop up and get in the way. But I couldn't get it off of Facebook. So we're working with what we've got, folks. This idea of Holy Spirit flowing through you, I have mixed thoughts. I can understand how the sense of relief, when you've made that point of decision, you've said, you know what, I'm going to go for it. For a lot of us older trans gals, we feel like it's too late, like we've missed our chance. But even so, you reach a point where it doesn't matter anymore. Because it's either try or don't. And if you don't, there's no more road. There's nothing there. It's just a big old cliff, an emptiness, a void, much like the one behind me. And so you try. And then you feel a sense of relief. You feel joy because you finally get to live. Like for real, not just go through the motions, not just exist, but live. And it's something that for many of us, we've never really known.
And the fear of the unknown often in these situations can be broken down into these two questions. All right. Just what will change and what will stay the same?
Now, that's a great way to address it, because while people could be on the verge of freaking out, you can calm them down by just breaking it into steps. What will change? What will stay the same? That's all there really is to this, right? So let's go through it. Let's look at the things. That's a great way to simmer people down, is just show them how simple the proposition before them truly is.
Right? What will stay the same? My commitment to the good news of Jesus Christ, our togetherness in ministry.
Now, of course, I have different thoughts about such things, but it stands to reason that a person's spiritual alignment, whatever it may be, whatever religion or lack thereof they might be involved in, isn't going to change, because that's not the aspect of life that's being adjusted. In fact, in many cases, it's whatever the faith is centered on, if there is one, on which their identity hinges. Because in a lot of faiths, including Christianity, the idea is that you serve God, your life, for whichever God it is you worship. Especially in the case of a minister, you're literally a servant of your God. So it can feel like a blessing that in turn reinforces the belief in whichever religion you happen to be a member of. In a way, it kind of is a blessing because it gives you additional strength. You can draw on that faith in a way that people who don't have that gift have to struggle through.
Unfortunately for all of you, my personality, I'm sorry, my style of preaching, my style of teaching, my ADHD brain type, you're welcome.
Now, these are all things that'll stay the same. I have news for you, bestie. The change will be gradual, but it's definitely going to change. I can tell you from personal experience that when your brain starts running on the hormones it was actually evolved for, that it was actually constructed for, dare I say, designed for, it starts working a lot better. I can only speak for myself, but I can tell you that my memory has dramatically improved. A bunch of other things as well. My awareness, my recall, there's so much stuff. But also emotions. While emotions are not the same as personality, the ability to feel your full range of feelings definitely impacts how you interact with other people, which in turn does affect how your personality comes across to others. I've had people all my life tell me that I'm a very caring person, but now that I'm able to feel more than depression and anger, I think it comes across a lot more. It helps me be more patient with people too. But I digress. The point is, things may change that Pastor Phil, because she does still go by Phil, Pastor Phil isn't expecting. But that's one of the joys of transition too, is those little surprises, those things that you weren't expecting. Like, cherries tasting good. Who could have expected that?
Sense of humor, none of that is changing. What will stay the same? Phil, I can't imagine being called anything different and actually being able to answer to it after 51 years.
Oh, you can, I assure you. But also, nobody's under any obligation. When you transition, just like when you get married or go through several other kinds of major life changes, you have the opportunity to change some or part or all of your name, but you don't have to. It's a tool, just like the medical aspects of transition. It's a tool that's there for you if that's something you want or need, but it's not a requirement. You don't have to do that. Now, to be clear, her name is Philippa, but she's been going by Phil for years. If she's fine with it, if she prefers it that way, that's cool.
That would just be way too much of a delay. So Phil, Reverend Phil, Pastor Phil, any of those work, just not Dr. Phil.
She does also have a doctorate. She's a reverend doctor. It's a theological doctorate. It's a religious doctorate, like about half of mine are, but it is still a doctorate.
What will stay the same? My commitment to prioritizing belonging. We've spent enough time with each other that you know how important it is for a community of faith to prioritize belonging. Well,
that's really important for a lot of people in a lot of groups. This is an interesting, on the tactical scale of things, it's an interesting step for the Methodist Church to make. This is a Methodist church, and Pastor Phil has been wearing the rainbow stole for a while now because the Methodists are expressly accepting and inclusive. And that's been good for them as an organization, as well as for the community they're trying to build, because by being inclusive, by being accepting, they're providing a refuge for people, for GSM people, for LGBT people who don't feel welcome anywhere else, where whether they believe in this particular God or any particular God, the community believes in them. And that can save a life. So we love to see it.
will stay the same is my deepening love for all of you. What will change? Thank God you have never chosen me as your pastor based off of my appearance. Amen. I was waiting for that.
On the plus side, Phil, you're about to get a whole lot prettier.
None of you ever judged me, or that was not part of the intake process of me being your pastor, was because of how my face looked, or my body, or how long my hair is, or my clothes. Because at the end of the day, we know that clothes are just fibers. They do not carry an anatomy with them. So,
yes, the kind of clothes you wear aren't really relevant. Like wearing this, the fact that I'm a woman doesn't really matter. Anybody could wear this because it's just clothes, you know? But also, while you're doing the ministering thing, you're wearing the minister outfit. I don't know if it's called a cassock in the Methodist tradition. I don't know every, subtype of Christianity intimately or anything, but there is an outfit. There's the stole, there's the robe. So what you wear when you're not ministering doesn't really matter, since there's an outfit for ministering. But also, not every pastor wears the rainbow stole. There's a few different options. On another weekend, Phil wears a tartan stole because of Celtic Advent. And in the week after this one, Phil wears a transgender flag stole, which is pretty neat too. Kind of like reaffirming the thing. I don't believe she actually says anything about it. It's just there as if to remind the congregation, yeah, that was real, which is pretty neat too. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Good to see you.
So to say that something is girls' clothes or boys' clothes, well, they don't come with a reproductive system. Amen.
Did you know, we covered this recently on I believe it was one of the Hot Topic shows, the weekday morning show that we do here on the channel, which are often much more chill, although this particular video is pretty dang chill. Women's rights. It was only in 1910 that women were allowed to start wearing jeans. It's been barely over 100 years, 115 years. Yeah, whether you wear jeans or you don't have to be a boy to wear jeans. You don't have to be a girl to wear a dress. They're just clothes. People really need to get over that nonsense.
Amen. So what will change? My voice. It might go a tad higher.
It might. No guarantees. Some people's voices change quite a lot. Some people's voices don't change at all. As a general rule, most of the doctors say don't anticipate anything's going to change voice-wise. In my case, I don't know what would have changed naturally because I've been voice training for nearly 2 years at this point. Shrug. But I wouldn't bet on there being either a small change or a large change. There may be a change. Who knows?
Pronouns she, her, but I'm not going to be pronoun police. Okay? Because I don't think that anybody will misgender or mispronoun out of malice. This is a process, it's a transition.
Anybody in the congregation, anybody of goodwill. And that's a good rule to keep in mind in your life, right? Like, just like cis people get misgendered sometimes. Yes, it happens. We've seen videos all over the internet of a fast food worker being misgendered or a customer at a fast food place being misgendered because they happen to be a gender non-conforming person, or the person who misgendered them just happened to guess wrong. And now that there's all the right-wing reactionary craziness about trying to police trans people, so many cis people are getting static because their hair is too short, or they're too muscular, or their skin is too brown, or whatever the case may be. We've all seen videos about that too. There was a college girl in Texas who recently gave a speech to the state legislature about, am I womanly enough to pee? You know, it's been getting ridiculous. So in public, that's one thing, especially now, especially in this world charged with political hatred for people for being different. Seems like we've been here before a few times, and yet somehow grown adults don't seem to know what the obvious correct moral action is, but never mind that. But people in your actual life, your regular daily life, mistakes are going to happen. People rarely intend malice. It's best to just assume an error and move on. That said, on the flip side, allies, friends, loved ones, countrymen, forgive yourself when errors happen. Don't make a big deal out of it. Don't trip over yourself. Oh, I'm so sorry, Phil. How could I do such? Just say you're sorry and move on. Just, they know. She knows, he knows, everybody knows. It's just a blip. Just say you're sorry and move on. You don't have to make a scene out of it.
What will change is my full name. I'm taking on for me Fiona's middle name so that we have that in common.
I don't know who Fiona is. Possibly a departed loved one. Possibly a relative. It's not really that important.
What may change?
It's not important for the purposes of what we're covering today. Obviously, it's very important to Reverend Phil.
Is that we might become known within the community as an even safer space for people who have felt marginalized. Notice what I said, an even safer space. I didn't say
rather
that we'll
important. Because like what I was talking about earlier, the Methodist Church has been kind of leading the charge amongst the more progressive churches because that's needed, right? Like some churches aren't primarily about control and tithes and taking away people's bodily autonomy and telling them how to live. Some of them, there's an idea that they should serve the people they serve, that they should be there for the community. I'm thinking of the lady who was calling around asking for baby formula recently that every channel of the universe seemed to cover. Some churches did say yes. Some churches said they would go out of their way to try to help. Not every church is a scam or a political lever of control. Some people do legitimately believe this stuff, and they have every right to. And it's wonderful when they center the object of their faith that they claim they believe in, the values that they espouse, and the community they say they serve. When people live up to the things they say, it can be quite wonderful.
Become that. Because I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now unless I have felt the love and the support from all of you for me and Fiona throughout the years.
And that's an excellent point, too. In a lot of cases, something like this, coming out, telling people, instead of being too afraid and slipping away, moving to another city and cutting contact with the life you had before. You know, the way trans people had to do it in the 60s and 70s. It can only happen when you feel that you're supported, that the people really believe in the things they say, that every person is valid. You know? It makes me think about my own ability to come out, to start my actual transition. Like many trans people, I was very aware of who I was at a very young age. But through my childhood, teen years, young adulthood, I was told that wasn't possible. That's not a thing you can do. You got to just be miserable and live with it. Every time I saw an episode of Maury Povich where they had a transsexual, the adults around me told me it was it didn't really happen. It was a fictional story they made up for the drama show. Every time there was a documentary about a trans person, oh, well, that's fictional too. It's satire. By the time I found out that being transgender was a legitimate thing, that people really could do, that we had the technology to help with, and that it was legitimate even without any medical care, well, by that point, I was stuck in a bit of a situation. It wasn't really possible to change things for other reasons, not the least of which being a spouse who is very opposed, to say the least, but also employment. By the time I finally had the ability to actually transition, it was when I found a job where they were actively inclusive, actively accepting. The stars aligned, and I finally got the chance to do it. And it was a damn good thing, too, because I was at the end of my rope. I would not be here today if I hadn't. And that's not because I was harboring thoughts of self-harm at the time. I just didn't want to live anymore. I'd come to the end of that road. There was nothing left. So in some ways, it was fortunate. Unfortunately, the company that I worked for that made it possible wasn't quite as accepting as they had presented themselves as, which is one of the reasons I don't work there anymore. But that's a story for another time. Let's get back to Reverend Phil.
So here's some frequently asked questions. Is the United Methodist Church, did he tell the district superintendent about this? What about the bishop? Is he okay with this? Absolutely. Absolutely. They're the first ones that I went to say, how can I do this in a pastoral sort of way to let the congregation know that I love them and that we can do this in such a way that we can stay in ministry together. Is our method?
That is pretty cool. The way she said, how can I do this in a way that it'll not hurt the congregation? Not, can I do this? But I'm doing this because who I am does not require permission. But how can I go about doing this in a way that includes the congregation, that doesn't alienate people or push them away or scare them or cause them to hate me or whatever? Like, how can we do this in the best way, aiming towards the best outcomes? And that's really cool. But when you have an accepting community, which is what makes transitions possible, you have a pretty good chance of being able to do something like that. And so far, I think she's doing a pretty fair job of it.
Is theology okay with this? Absolutely. Thank God for our revised this year book of discipline, our book of resolutions, our social principles that affirm this.
So this is an important note, because it's only this year that the Methodists revise their various books to affirm the validity of her transition. Prior to that, it was some form of heresy, or it was frowned upon, or however the hell their church phrases things. Which is to say, they wouldn't stop her, but they wouldn't necessarily embrace her either. And for some people, that can be one barrier too much, and they just never transition. It can be rough. She's also a long way from being the first Methodist ministers to transition. On Transpositions Weekly, Transpositive News, and some of the other shows that we do, we've reported on several of them over the past couple of years. Sometimes the church doesn't exactly smile on them, living, apparently, but they weren't stopped either. It's an interesting note. It's doubtless helpful. And as Aunt Jer points out, hello, Aunt Jer. She says, I like how she keeps referring to her church as a collaborative ministry. How can we stay in ministry together? I agree. I like that a lot, because so many of the ministers we see, particularly on the skeptic side of the interwebs, the ones who get highlighted are the outrageous ones, or the mainstream ones, for that matter, who dictate from the pulpit. If you want to be a true Christian, you must do this. You must do as I say. You must obey me. Whereas Reverend Phil here is talking about all of us being together in a community. Because that's the point, is to build the community. And I love to see it.
Are the scriptures okay with this? Absolutely. Did you know that there are 8 different Hebrew words for different gender types? In the ancient Hebrew, they recognized at least 8 different gender types.
Reverend Phil's been reading the website, betterthanember.com, where you can find that kind of information specifically. We did a video about it like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, about the 8 different genders in the Talmud. Now, I don't know that there's 8 words for it. The ones that I've seen that seem to be in Greek, honestly, but what do I know about ancient languages? they tend to be like 1 or 2 word combinations. For instance, there's one word that means trans woman, and there's another word that means natural, and a different adjective that means made by humans. So you could be a trans woman who got that way because of human intervention, or you could be a trans woman who got that way because of natural intervention, because that happens too. There's a few flavors of intersex where that happens. Same thing going the other direction. They've got trans men who happen naturally and trans men who happen due to human intervention. They've got a word for androgynous people, and they've got a word for ambiguous people, which is not the same as androgynous. And then, of course, they've got words for male and female. But yeah, we covered that quite some time ago. Now, it's not impossible she found out about it from somewhere else, but it's not impossible she found out about it from us either. So that's neat. My Unfinished Song says, Ember, many Methodist churches had congregations that were split over being queer affirming. Eventually, that tension resulted in the whole denomination fracturing. The Phobes created the Global MC. Global MC. Methodist. Oh, Methodist Church. Okay. Interesting. So you have a church based on the idea of being in community together, and there's an offshoot based on being in community together, but hating people. Far be it from me to tell anybody how to run their religion, but it sounds like that group's in service to Satan. But maybe I've been listening to too many apologists. On the happier side, Deviant Outcast sends us 50 secs. I don't know why they're displaying across my eyes. Can't see me. I'm blindfolded. And says, hells yeah, I want a Q&A show. Though, if I'm honest, I just want Ember to have money for food and life and fun. Possibly in that order. Thank you, Deviant. But also, yes, we do have a super chat goal for this show. If we get 5 super chats of any kind, we'll do another bonus show. I only meant to bring it up if it actually happened, because I didn't. It's fine. Live broadcasting. Hooray. But thank you, Deviant.
In ancient Greek, while not 8, have more than 2. Are my parents okay with this?
This is an important thing too. But before we get to that, ancient Greek, I don't know if there's 8 genders, but there are more than 2. Okay, parents. Now this is important for an entirely different reason. Pay attention.
Absolutely not. They texted me this morning and they asked for me to tell you all that they do not support me and that they have chosen their convictions and their beliefs over supporting their child.
They chose their convictions over their child, and that's the way they phrased it. And they said she should tell the congregation that she should not keep it a secret, but tell them that. Folks, if you're putting your convictions ahead of your children, you're a bad person. I'm sorry, not sorry. The point of having good morals and strong convictions and yada yada is to help your children. That's the point. That's why you do that. And if your convictions conflict with the well-being of your child, you need to realize you were wrong and change your convictions. This arrogant, I am right no matter what, self-entitled, self-important, narcissistic bullshit that the older generation seems obsessed with. There are whole YouTube channels dedicated to these entitled estranged parents groups and books and this whole culture. This is why. Because as much as they whine about younger generations being all self-interested and whatnot, for them, it really, really is me, 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 me. And good luck everybody else. That's why we have the Republican Party we do. But that's another topic for another time. The point is, I feel really bad for Reverend Phil because her parents fucked up. Now, I don't believe her parents were always that way. Clearly, they raised a good person, a caring person, a person whose greatest ambition is to serve their community. That's pretty amazing. But then to turn their back on that person because she wants to be happy. Like, here's the thing. Controversial hot take, I know, but I don't think a person should have to justify how they feel. Like, we can justify why trans people are the way we are, why we need access to the healthcare we need. We can show you the science. We can show you the better outcomes. We can show you the surveys that show a dramatic increase in joy and a dramatic decrease in depression. We can justify it. But we shouldn't have to, because here's the thing. If you, whether you're cis, whether you're trans, whether you don't know, your body is yours. Your life is yours. I don't really care if you're truly trans, if it will make you happy to transition. You should have the right to do that. Because it takes years. It's a tremendous investment in time and money and pain and loss. And if it makes your life better to go through all of that and there's still a net gain to it, you absolutely fucking deserve to. And to hell with anyone who says different. Speaking of hell, Lil of all trades sends a super chat for $5. Thank you, Lil. That pun brought to you by the legend of Lilith being the mother of all demons and people who know. Thank you, Lil. Lil says, all hail the right-handed Sith. Fair enough. Sith said, I wish I had money to give. And I appreciate that. So Lil was substituting. So hooray. Thank you, Lil. Deviant Outcast sends us 50 secs and says, this is for right-handed Sith who wants to give but can't. Appreciate that, Deviant. Thank you. Ask and ye shall receive, I suppose. Something like that. So that, I think that puts us at 3. Yeah, 3. Oh, wait. But wait, there's more. Lil sends another 5 and says, the mother of demons wants a Q&A. Well, now we're only one away. So huzzah. But we do have more with not Dr. Phil, even though she has a doctorate.
I'm not talking out of turn. They asked me to tell you this. Does this mean you're, frequently asked questions? Transgender means gender. Orientation is who you're attracted to.
Yes. I do want to point out this is significant because some media outlets have made a big deal out of this, saying that she also came out as ace. Not exactly. She's saying she was always ace. She's just putting it in there so that people understand when she says she's not looking to date anyone, she fucking means it. Like many of us, she would rather have garlic bread or, do churchy things, one of those. Hellbound Hillbilly sends us $5. Thank you. And says, now you're none away. So yeah, we're doing a bonus show. Possibly tomorrow, asterisk. Honestly, folks, today was a bit of a close call. There are some things going on that it took me hours to get in front of the camera, folks, because there's, goodness. Lil got her garlic bread shirt. Neat. Maybe we'll get to see it the next time. Lil often joins us in the mornings. Not every day, because sometimes there's issues, there's rain, there's dogs, there's all sorts of things. But she's often there. That's why she has her own emoji, because she's a very frequent co-host on the morning show. So once again, make sure you're subscribed. Join us at 11 a.m. Eastern for Hot Topic. We're doing Atheist Advent this year. It's super fun and extra science-y.
I'm in the category of what they call asexual. I've been that way since we've all been together. Is that I'm not living my life in such a way that I am looking for romance. And that's okay. We all have to live the ways that we live.
Okay, so pluses and minuses. You don't have to be single just because you're trans. I understand that a lot of people do feel that way, or they're uncomfortable dating because they're worried about the blowback or whatever. But also, can we please fucking normalize that it's all right to not be attracted to anyone? It is okay to be an asexual person.
Surrounded by enough love from all of you, from Fiona, from dear friends. So you may ask yourself, am I okay with this? It's going to take some time to process, perhaps. But I am fully trusting in God's patience and kindness and grace to help us through this.
And she's talking about many different things at the same time here. Am I okay with this? Am I okay with this as in being trans? As in being open about transition? Am I okay with this as in telling the congregation? Am I okay as in doing this on a live stream where the world is eventually going to notice? Because the bigots are nothing if not persistent in digging down every single hole they can find to try to find something to be upset about. Is it the transition? Is it the treatments? Is it, there's so many things it could be. They're all processes. All of life is processes. And sometimes it takes time, more time than we might like. And sometimes it takes a great deal of patience and understanding, even if we don't understand.
Am I okay with you asking questions? Absolutely. Absolutely. You can ask.
That's a really good thing to get on record, because a lot of people feel very weird about asking questions, or if they don't feel weird, they feel like you might feel weird by being questioned. So I will say, for the purpose of everyone watching now and in the future, one of the reasons I'm a public internet person is because sometimes people do need to ask questions. It's not a matter of curiosity. It's a matter of, am I doing right by my community members, by my trans girlfriend or trans boyfriend or trans NB partner, or one of my parents came out as trans, whatever the case may be. I'm a public person for that reason, as well as to be visible, which I believe, much like Reverend Phil, we understand that it's very dangerous to be visible, to be open right now, which is why it's even more important for those of us who can to do it, because those of us who can't need to see that we're still here, even now. There's still hope.
Ask me all kinds of questions. I'm happy to answer them as best as I can. But I have to let you know that this is now the third month that I'm in hormone replacement therapy.
She's already 3 months into HRT. It's still early enough that people probably haven't noticed anything different. It's still early enough that she may not be noticing anything different. But it's reaching the point where there are going to start to be noticeable differences. Which makes me wonder, is she telling the congregation because she's reached the 3-month mark and she said, okay, this is for real. This is helping me. I'm feeling better. Things are getting better. It's not a mistake. It's not an error. This medical treatment is working. And so I'm going to keep doing it. So I better tell the congregation because they're going to start to notice changes. Or is it more, I've been doing this already so that as I tell you, you can understand this is for real. I'm not announcing I'm about to do a great change. I'm telling you I'm in the process of a great change. And I'm inviting you to be part of that, to be part of this community while we do that. I'm not sure which it is. Possibly both.
In that first week, going back to what I said earlier, is if the doctor had something that could increase your quality of life exponentially, I'm here to tell you that it was just within that first week that I was really, truly happy for the first time in a very long time. Truly happy.
I can relate, as you might expect. I'm not going to wax poetic about what it feels like, but I can tell you, as many of you know, I do a daily recording, something like a video journal sort of thing about what's been going on in my life for that day, what's on my mind, how I'm feeling about things. And very early on, I was experiencing those rushes of joy and bliss because I was finally getting to be me. I was finally getting to be alive for real. It was so wonderful. And I remember feeling so tickled by those, feeling this kind of euphoria that while I have known some pretty great joys in my life, I've never felt anything like that. And I thought to myself while I was doing one of these recordings, I hope that never goes away. I hope I don't take it for granted how I'm feeling now. It doesn't become just a standard baseline, that I always feel that. And of course, it's not the kind of thing that you feel all the time. And much like every other thing we feel, it's influenced by the other stimulus around us. The more stress we have in our lives, the less we're able to feel our own joys, with any kind of joy, of course. But from time to time, when my sense of stress simmers down a bit, that joy still wells up. It just bursts out of me. And just the other day, I was recording one of those video journal entries. And I was just in the middle of talking about how ordinary that particular day had been, how it wasn't particularly great, but it wasn't horrible either. And that's, in the grander scheme of things, kind of a win. And then it just came over me. And I just kind of hugged myself and grinned like an idiot for a full 30 seconds before I could articulate what had just happened. It's an amazing feeling to like being yourself. after going your whole life not liking being yourself. It's huge. And so, good news, Pastor. While that will come and go like every other feeling you have, I can't speak about forever, but at least for a few years, that doesn't go away. And that's pretty cool. Mine Finished Sock says, don't shame the transitioning pastor. Like and share the stream instead. As always, solid advice, my friend.
And that's a beautiful thing. And that's what we want for the people in our lives, isn't it? Whether we can wrap our heads around some of the decisions that they make, at the end of the day, we really want the people around us to be happy. So
most of us do. I think about my own children. As I'm thinking about her parents, I think about my own children. And when my oldest came to me to tell me that they were non-binary, now they didn't know I was trans at the time. That was a bit of a surprise. They were worried about how I might take it. They were worried about how all their relatives might take it. But it was important to have those conversations. And I instinctively knew the immediate first response has to be you accept your child. You make it clear to them in no uncertain terms that you still love them, not the name you've given them or what clothes you've bought for them or how they interact with other people, how they date people, whatever it is. It's the person that you love. But they were so worried because you never do know. That's the danger of coming out. Because I think of how I reacted to my parents and how Phil's parents reacted to her. Definitely a grown freaking adult, and saying, no, screw you. We have our beliefs. I can't fathom. I can't relate.
In the year ahead, the district is coming alongside of us in wonderful ways. Us as a church, they want to help us as we kind of unpack these sorts of things. And there's going to be resources and workshops for us and continuing education. So what do I hope stays the same? Our deepening love for one another. And what do I hope stays the same is that our commitment to the good news of Jesus Christ. What do I hope stays the same is our commitment to prioritizing belonging.
Now, again, I have mixed feelings about that specific idea, but from a pastoral perspective, this is very well done. It's saying, hey, a thing is changing about me compared to the work we're doing here together. That shouldn't matter. Like, be glad for me, be sad for me, whatever the case may be, but stay focused on the work. Keep your eye on the prize, as they say.
And I deeply, deeply believe this, that what brought us together and has kept us together are all the things found in the stays the same category, that you'll get over the appearance part and recognize that what stays the same is what has kept us together in love and ministry to this community and the community at large. So may it continue to be so. Amen.
And that is the end of the sermon. Now, I do also want to add that I reached out to Pastor Phil because I thought this was great. And I thought there is a lot that we have in common. And especially considering the fact that the media has gotten their hands on Pastor Phil's story, and predictably, the pro-human advocates are thrilled. They're tickled. They think it's wonderful. And the anti-human advocates, can you call a person an advocate when their goal is to undermine people's rights? Whatever, the red hats, shall we say. They were predictably outraged. Shock and surprise. So I bugged Phil for an interview. I don't know what they'll say. I specifically told her, no pressure. I know you're being swamped by the media and the brigades and so on and so forth. When you have time, if you have the inclination, then respond to me. But I would love to interview you. So maybe eventually, in a few weeks, maybe a few months, maybe we will be hearing more from Pastor Phil. But I did, in order to make that contact, in order to reach out. I tracked her down, and I saw on her Facebook profile there was a picture of her fully done up with earrings. And she talked about getting her ears pierced. Just a couple of days after the sermon, she went and got her ears pierced. And it really struck a chord with me, because after I started my transition, that's one of the first things I did too. It was something that I could do quickly. At the time, I was still getting regular paychecks, and it was fairly cheaply. And it was a thing that I wanted. I'd always wanted. What I didn't expect was how much it moved me when the technician held up the mirror so I could see, because I cried right there in the chair, not from the pain, but from the joy, because it was only at that moment when I saw myself with the earrings that I realized how much I'd been suppressing that and so much else about my self-expression, about my desires, about the things that mattered to me when I was a small child. And that dam came busting open. I think that might be an essential part of a person's early transition, is breaking down that barrier and finding the child within, the lost, forgotten, buried under the world's bullshit little boy or little girl, or little them in the case of a non-binary person, who was ignored, who was lied to, and who was told by everyone that they couldn't be who they are, that it was impossible for them to be who they were, that instead they had to be someone else. I think breaking down that wall is really important, and seeing Pastor Phil do the same thing I did in the same way I did it for the same reason I did it. It reminded me of that moment for myself. That's going to do it for me for this time. Remember to join us weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. We're doing Atheist Advent this month, and going through the secular sciences one by one is tremendous fun. Yesterday was evolutionary theory. Tomorrow is ecology. I hope to see you there. Remember to help those less fortunate if you're able. We keep a list of community members in need and their fundraisers on the website, betterthanember.com/help. If you want to support what I'm doing here, there are a bunch of ways to do that, from super chats like you've seen through this broadcast, to super thanks if you're watching later, to Patreon, Venmo, Cash App, and more. Also on the website, along with all my other links, the gender science resources, the GSM community resources, and of course the merch store, all of that on betterthanember.com. As always, remember, you don't have to hurt people for being different from you just because someone who hurts children told you to, because you are better than religion. Good night, folks. Thanks to all our patrons and top-level members for November. Miranda, Karen Butcher, Jessica the Trans Metal Alchemist, Robin Webster, Maya Adkisson, Jimmy Tux, Ian Chen, Lilith, Ember Lynn, The Barely Bearable Atheist, Eric Wander, Jason Jacoby, Godless Engineer, Jester, Lil of All Trades, Deviant Outcast, Kelly King, the Detroit Atheist Queen, The Mighty Filbert, and Secular Phalanist. And you can add your name here next month by signing up at patreon.com/betterthanember, or by joining Emberships here on YouTube at the Cinder level, which also includes all the custom emojis, tons of member-exclusive content, member-only live streams, and a bunch of other stuff. I deeply appreciate all the supporters who keep this channel going. Thank you all so much. Because of you, we're building a wonderful community that I'm very proud of.
Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back